What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, over the long course of the regular season, and of course some play-in tournament games as well, and the Bulls season officially being over, I think it's time to talk about some key takeaways that we can learn from the Chicago Bulls team over the course of the season. Now, at the end of the day, some of them might be good, some of them might be bad, but in relation to the Chicago Bulls, I think looking at these areas, looking at some of the things that has happened for the Chicago Bulls might make it, I guess, more interesting, and also might make people's, I guess, decisions that they feel is necessary for the Chicago Bulls offseason become a little bit more prevalent, and they might have some more ideas based on some of the things that we may have learnt over the course of the season. So that is where we are going to be discussing some of the key takeaways that we can learn from the Chicago Bulls this season. Now, granted, most of it is probably how I feel towards the end of the season because recency bias. Unfortunately, the season's a long one. To say that I remember every single game from October all the way until now is just a little bit naive, and it's simply not true. But I do feel like it's important to discuss regardless. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and the key takeaways and the things that you have learnt about the Chicago Bulls this season. Now, I'm not going to say some of the basic ones like the fit doesn't work, because those are videos I can make down the line. I don't really want to talk about the fit and everything like that. I just kind of want to talk about, I guess, some of the things that I took away from the season in many ways. What I have learnt about the Chicago Bulls. And feel free to let me know in the comments below what you have learnt as well. I'm going to start off with Patrick Williams. And the thing I've wrote about Patrick Williams is Patrick Williams has become one of our most underrated defenders and is arguably our best one-on-one defender this season. Now, I say arguably because you still have Alex Caruso in here, you still have Patrick Beverley in here, but if you look at the statistics behind Patrick Williams' defense recently, it has been fantastic for the Chicago Bulls, and I think the stats do actually show, because for the majority of the time he probably is on the best player on the team. He has slowed down some of the superstars in this league this season, and he has improved in multiple areas on the defensive end. I really think he's turned into one of our best, if not our best defender this season. Now again, argumentative. I understand there are certain sides of the picture that people want to say, oh, look at Alex Caruso, his defensive stats, he should be in the all-defensive first team and stuff like that. I'm saying arguably our best one-on-one defender. I'm not saying our best defender in general, because I think obviously Alex Caruso is a much better, I guess, person for steals, also reads passing lanes much better, is someone that can fight over screens better. These are all great things, but in terms of a one-on-one basis, mano a mano, I think Patrick Williams has shown that he is one of our more better defenders, definitely our most underrated defender. I feel like no one talks about Patrick Williams' defense in the team because you got a lot of other guys that are known for defense. Patrick Williams, I just think he's been left out of the conversation, and I think the stats show that he is one of our best defenders, if not our best defender this season. So, question marks there, but I think that's one thing that we have learnt, and what that means for the future is that Patrick Williams will continue to develop on the defensive end, and maybe he can be a really big, important 3-and-D player for the Chicago Bulls. In terms of a superstar, again, I'm not getting into all that. I don't know if Patrick Williams will ever become a superstar in this league, but he could be a great 3-and-D player on any team in the NBA as we speak, and there's still room to improve there. Moving on into the next one. Coby White has improved in almost every aspect of his game. Now look, I've talked about Coby White a lot recently. Admittedly, it's because I really do like Coby White. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I've said all I needed to say about Coby White. He's improved playmaking-wise, defensive-wise. He's improved his vision. He's been very, very steady and consistent recently. But I say in almost every aspect, and there is still one big aspect that Coby White has not really improved in, and in my opinion that is his ability to score the ball. Now again, I'm not saying he hasn't improved at all, but I'm saying it's not been a drastic improvement. Again, it's one of those situations where, look, I think his percentages may have increased a little bit since I last talked about it, but it's still, for the most of the season, we're at career lows. His 3-point makes were at a career low. His 3-point percentage was at a career low. His 2-point percentages were at a career low. So I'm not sure what the stats look like now when the end of the season has come and he's had a very good end to the season, but during the middle and beginning of the season, the scoring was still a big issue for Coby White. So I feel like it's very naive to say he's improved his scoring ability when in reality it's only really been towards the end of the season. But playmaking wise has been very good for most of the season. Defensively was very, very good for most of the season. Even rebounding wise, you've seen Kobe White become very, very good for most of the season. So I think it's fair to say Kobe White has improved in all aspects of the game. But speaking of inconsistent scoring, the Chicago Bulls still need consistent outside scoring and a consistent rim protector. Let's take a deeper dive into this one, ladies and gentlemen, because consistent outside scoring is an absolute necessity. I don't know how many times I've heard the Chicago Bulls players say they are passed up on wide open three-point shots, or they're not confident enough to shoot the three-point shot. Even the Bulls front office and Notorious Kind of Service has mentioned this time after time in the recent interviews. So again, if that's the case, you need consistent outside scoring. I've heard Kobe White as well say that we don't have bad three-point shooters on the team. Look, I'm not here to argue whether or not we have bad three-point shooters on the team or not, but the fact of the matter is, everyone can see it with their eyes, and the stats will probably prove it as well. We don't have consistent outside scoring. So that is something we're going to have to pursue next season in the offseason. I don't know how it's going to get done, but we absolutely need some consistency in our shooting, and specifically our three-point shooting. I don't think there's any question about it. We need to improve in that area. We've needed to improve in that area for a long time. That is where we need to go. But rim protection. Look, let's look at the stats. Nikola Vucevic, the amount of minutes that he's played, 82 games of the season, he's averaging 0.7 blocks per game. Andre Drummond, to be fair, limited in his, minutes for most of the season. I think he's averaging a career low in minutes if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that. He's also averaging 0.7 blocks per game. So there is not a lot of rim protection on this team. We brought in Andre Drummond to be a rim protector, and people from the very beginning had their thoughts and doubts about Andre Drummond as a rim protector, and I understand that. But he's still been a very solid defender in terms of he moves his feet well, he can keep up with a lot of centers in the league, but he's not blocking the shots. And that is something that the Bulls have needed for a long time now. Patrick Williams has made a big leap in that department, getting around 2 blocks in these recent stretches towards the end of the season every single game, which is fantastic to see. But from the center position, I still feel like personally we need a rim protector. So maybe Andre Drummond's not that guy. I don't know the future of Andre Drummond in general. Look, again, I think he could get a lot more minutes somewhere else. So I'm thinking he's going to leave us, not we're going to leave him in many ways. But if he does leave the Chicago Bulls, I still think a rim protector should be a key priority for the Chicago Bulls going forward. And look, our perimeter defense has not been an issue this season. Our defense in general has not been an issue this season. But if you're going to attack the paint, or if other teams are going to force us or force themselves to attack the paint against us, we're going to have to learn how to block some of those shots. Let's move over into the next one, and that is size does matter. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, ladies and gentlemen. Size does matter, especially in the NBA. I'm just playing, but literally, size does matter in the NBA. That is a big statement to make. And Notorious Kind of Service said it himself. We need to work on areas in terms of second chance points, offensive rebounding, and hustle plays. He mentioned those things in his interview. So I think that basically means that this Bulls team is too small to get offensive rebounds. They're not winning the 50-50 chances because of all the long rebounds that they're not getting, and they need to improve in those areas. Size does matter. Playing small ball, 4 straight guards, as good as they can be in other areas, it hurts us in other areas as well. So I feel like it's important to have different dynamics to the team. I think we need better wings. I think we need bigger wings, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that has to be a key thing going forward for the Chicago Bulls. There are some games you want to play 4 guards, that's great. Look, we're probably going to keep a lot of the guards that we have here anyway. But at the end of the day, when those 4 guard system doesn't work, you got to bring wingers into the team. You got to bring those small forwards and power forwards into the team. You got to add some size to the table as well. I just think it makes sense at the end of the day. I don't know why the Bulls are so persistent on small ball. If you give yourself one way to play and one way alone to play, you will become too predictable. And as I've always said, when it comes to predictability, if you're good enough, great. Be as predictable as you want. But as we see in this season, when the Bulls have been predictable, they've not been good enough. So you got to learn to change things up a little bit. Next season has to be a big priority in that. Moving over into the next one. If Zach LaVine played at his best all season, we wouldn't have finished in the 10th seed. I think this is a big thing to talk about because, let's be honest, the Zach LaVine at the beginning of the season was a shell of himself towards what we saw at the end of the season. And I think we can clearly see, everybody has said it, he missed back-to-back games as well. His knee was a big problem and his off-season was a big problem for him this season. It resulted in bad performances, inconsistent performances, downright brutal performances from Zach LaVine, and it led to a lot of Chicago Bulls losses that we may have been able to pick up if Zach LaVine was at his best. Now look, I'm not saying we're going to be the 4th seed or the 6th seed. I'm not saying we're going to win a ring because Zach LaVine was playing at his best at the beginning of the season. But I'll say this. From the 10th seed to the 7th seed, I think it's a very, very big discussion, in all honesty. And I think we could have been the team that would have advanced in the play-in tournament if we had finished in the 7th seed, or if we could have went back to the 6th seed. I'm not saying it's going to revolutionize our season. All I'm saying is, if Zach LaVine had played better all season, if he wasn't dealing with a knee injury at the beginning of the season, we would have a lot more wins, in my opinion, than we currently do. It's a big statement to make. Again, I want to see how you guys feel about that statement because I feel like it's very important and it's one of the things I learned from the Chicago Bulls this season. Let's move over into the next one. Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo Dosunmu's drop-off is bigger than expected from his first season to his second season. Now, again, look at the stats. The stats state that Ayo Dosunmu's, averages are actually very similar. Some people might say the drop-off was not bigger than we first anticipated. But there are two things that I want to draw to your attention that shows Ayo Dosunmu's drop-off has been bigger than anticipated. Because he's still averaging his 8 points, his rebounds and assists are very similar, and stuff of that nature. But there are two things, in my opinion, that speaks to Ayo Dosunmu's, drop-off. One, his shot selection, in my opinion, has been a massive drop-off. It seems like the best he's been this season is a transition player, and that's simply not what Ayo Dosunmu should always be. Yes, it's a big part of his game, I understand that. But in terms of his mid-range shots, in terms of his general shot selection, in terms of his ability to be a ball handler and use the pick and rolls to his advantage, he has been nowhere near the player that he was last season. Granted, it could be some of his fault, it could be the coaching staff, I don't really know what it is, but that's a big reason for his drop-off. His shot selection, in my opinion, has not been anywhere near the same as last season. But his three-point shooting as well has pointed out a massive drop-off as well. From 37% in his first season to 31% this season, which is below average in the NBA, I believe. And again, it's on the same attempts. So that is where I feel like a lot of people will notice his drop-off from last season to this current season, the end of this season. Because it's a three-point shooting league. I know a lot of people don't like saying it, but it is a three-point shooting league. When you're not making your three-point shots, fans and people will start to notice that. So that is where I think the drop-off has been significant for Ayo Dosunmu. Let's move over into the next one. Speaking of Ayo Dosunmu, speaking of Kobe White, speaking of Patrick Williams, the Bulls' development and Dalen Terry as well. The Bulls' development has been questionable. I'm not sure how much success stories we can walk out of the Chicago Bulls' development with in terms of this new regime. Now, granted, Kobe White has been very steady, but Kobe White was also a byproduct of the old regime for the Chicago Bulls. He's the only, outside of Zach LaVine, I think he's the only player that has played under the Garpax era and stuff of that nature. So, again, it's a byproduct of, I guess, the old regime. But again, it doesn't mean the Bulls front office had nothing to do with it, or the Bulls current development staff had nothing to do with it. But it's also something that you can't necessarily put all the way down to this current regime. But Patrick Williams, he's made some steady strides, but again, is the type of strides that you don't still believe he could be a superstar in this league, which is what the 4th pick, it's what the Bulls probably projected him to be in the 4th pick. Marko Simonovic, where the hell is he? I don't even know where he is, let alone to say his development has been good. He's been fantastic in the G League. It's clearly a long-term investment in Marko, but no game time at the NBA level in 2 seasons, and he's holding a roster spot for the Chicago Bulls as well. In my opinion, there are certain things that needs to be done about that. If you're going to play him in the G League the whole time, put him on a 2-way contract, because he's holding up a roster spot that someone else could have used for the Chicago Bulls team. I don't think his development has been good at all. I think he should have got a chance at the NBA level by now. Dalen Terry as well. G League for most of the season. Look, it's only his first year, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I think everybody can agree he deserves to play. And speaking of that, Dalen Terry should be playing next season. Ayo Dosunmu's development as well. look, he's had a regression from last season from 2 seasons ago, I guess, to last season, or this current season that we're talking about. Big regression from Ayo in a couple of areas. So again, the progression, the development for the Chicago Bulls is still very questionable, very sus. Still don't know whether or not it's going to be any good or not. We still have a couple of years, I guess, to figure it out. But again, not been great so far. And of course, yes, Dalen Terry should be playing for the Chicago Bulls next season. Look, I personally feel like we're going to see a lot of players depart from this team next season. I'm not saying big players. I still think the core of the team will be the same. But I think guys like Javonte Green will leave. I think guys like Andre Drummond will leave. There could be a doubt that Derrick Jones Jr. will stay as well, because he's had inconsistent minutes for the Chicago Bulls. I think if these guys can find better suitors for them out there, they are not going to be hesitant to stay or leave. They will choose to leave, in my opinion, if there are better opportunities out there for them. If Andre Drummond could get more minutes on a different team, I think he's out of here, in all honesty. And I think it's the same with Javonte Green. I think it's the same with Derrick Jones Jr. Of course, I'm not even guaranteeing that Patrick Beverley will be here next season. So there are guys that could leave the Chicago Bulls team next season without a shadow of a doubt. We might choose not to pay some of these guys either. That should open up a spot for Dalen Terry next season. If there is an excuse or a reason behind Dalen Terry not playing next season, I will be furious with the Chicago Bulls team. I think he's shown he could be a capable bench player. Yes, he makes mistakes, but everybody on this team has made mistakes. But I think in the minutes that he's played, he's actually done very well for the Chicago Bulls off of the bench. And I do feel like you need to give him opportunities off of the bench next season. Simple as that. And that's some of the key things I've taken away from the Chicago Bulls. Is it everything? No. Again, looking at Nikola Vucevic and how he's played 82 games, I could say Nikola Vucevic has had a better season this season than last season. And I could give you the reasons why. I've not specified everything for the Chicago Bulls, but I feel like these are important things for the offseason. I feel like a lot of these things will determine our offseason decisions. And B, it's all mostly about some of our younger guys, because I think that's extremely important, because these guys are going to be the pinnacle of the Chicago Bulls. They're going to be the future of this team in years to come. Some of them will, at least. And I feel like it's important that we really take a deeper dive and learn what we've seen from those guys as well. That's really all I'm going to say in terms of this situation. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Once again, let me know in the comments below what you think about some of the key aspects that you've taken away from this season. What have you learned? What are some things you want to see for next season in relation to some of the things that I've said? And if you disagree with some of the things I've said, for example, I know the Patrick Williams one a lot of people would disagree with, but again, it is what it is. I said arguably for a reason. So if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments below and we can have that discussion, or again, maybe you can persuade me otherwise. But yeah, it is what it is in terms of that retrospect. Anyway, have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.